It was not meant for her, but it found her anyway, in the quietest corner of the city library, tucked away in the forgotten classics section. Sarah found a book she hadn't seen since her university days. It was an old leather-bound copy of 100 Years of Solitude. As she idly flipped through the pages, a small, folded piece of paper slipped out and landed on the dusty floor. It was a note written in elegant, looping cursive. Curiosity got the better of her. She picked it up and unfolded it. The ink was slightly faded, the paper yellowed with age. It read, "To my dearest Alara, if you are reading this, it means I didn't make it back, but I need you to know, every moment I was away, my heart was with you. I left something for you, a piece of our story, hidden where our journey began. Look for the oak tree with a twisted branch, the one where we carved our initials. Under the stone that looks like a sleeping cat, you'll find it. It's not much, but it's everything. Forever yours, Leo." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a note, it was a final message. A treasure map left by a ghost. Who were Alara and Leo? Did Alara ever find this note? The book's checkout card was blank for the last 30 years. It seemed this message had been waiting, lost between the pages. For decades, Sarah felt a strange pull, a sense of responsibility. This story wasn't hers, but now that she held it in her hands, she couldn't just put it back. She had to know what happened. She had to see if the treasure was still there. The note mentioned a park, an oak tree, a specific stone. The problem was, which park? The city had dozens. She looked at the book again. Inside the front cover, there was a stamp, donated by the estate of Eleanor Vance. Eleanor Vance, could that be Alara? It was a long shot, but it was all she had. A quick search online revealed that the Vance family had been prominent residents, their estate bordering what was now known as Crestwood Park. That had to be it. The next morning, Sarah drove to Crestwood Park. It was an old park, filled with ancient trees that seemed to whisper secrets to the wind. She felt like a detective on a historical case. Finding an oak tree with a twisted branch wasn't as easy as she thought. There were so many oaks, each with its own character. She spent nearly an hour walking in circles, her hope starting to wane. Just as she was about to give up, she saw it. Tucked away near a small, overgrown creek was a magnificent oak, and one of its lower branches coiled like a serpent. Her heart pounded as she approached. She ran her fingers over the bark, searching for initials, and there they were, faded but still visible. E+L, enclosed in a crudely carved heart. This was the place. She looked around the base of the tree. There were several large stones, but one in particular caught her eye. It was smooth and rounded on one side, with a slight dip in the middle, perfectly resembling a cat curled up for a nap. It was exactly as Leo had described it. With trembling hands, she tried to move the stone. It was heavier than it looked, wedged deep into the earth. She dug around it with her fingers, loosening the soil until it finally shifted. Beneath it was a small, rusted metal box. It was locked, but the lock was so corroded that it broke apart with a gentle twist. Sarah held her breath as she lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a silver locket. It was tarnished with age, but still beautiful. She carefully opened it. On one side was a miniature, hand-painted portrait of a young woman with warm, smiling eyes and dark, curly hair. Alara, on the other side, an inscription, "My sun and my stars." Tucked behind the portrait was another tiny, folded piece of paper. This one was even more fragile than the first. She carefully unfolded it. The note was short, just a few words in the same elegant script. "Meet me where the river bends. I'll be waiting." A wave of sadness washed over Sarah. He was waiting for her, but he never made it back. And Alara, or Eleanor, never knew. She had lived her whole life, perhaps, without knowing about this final token of his love. The donation of the book must have been after her passing. She never got the message. Sarah sat there for a long time, the locket in her hand, thinking about these two strangers whose lives had briefly intersected with hers. Their story was one of love, loss, and a message that went astray. It felt so incredibly tragic. She couldn't change the past, but she felt she needed to give their story a proper ending. She went back to the library, to the archives department this time. She spent days poring over old newspapers and city records. She learned that Eleanor Vance had become a celebrated botanist, never married, and dedicated her life to preserving the city's green spaces, especially Crestwood Park. She found an obituary from 10 years ago. It mentioned her love for literature and her generous donations to the library. Then, she found what she was looking for, a small article from a newspaper dated nearly 60 years ago. It detailed a military training accident overseas. Among the names of the lost was a young soldier Sergeant Leo Maxwell. His last known address was in the same neighborhood as the Vance estate. Everything clicked into place. Sarah knew what she had to do. She located Eleanor Vance's final resting place in a quiet, beautiful cemetery on a hill overlooking the city. The headstone was simple. Eleanor Vance. She loved the trees. Sarah placed the locket gently on the stone. Then, she took out the 2 notes, Leo's last words, and placed them beside it, weighing them down with a small, smooth pebble from the park. "He was waiting for you," she whispered to the wind, "and he loved you very much." It felt like she was finally closing a chapter that had been left open for far too long. A sense of peace settled over her. This wasn't her story, but she had become its keeper, its final messenger. As she walked away, she looked back at the grave. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of a nearby oak tree, and for a moment, it sounded like a sigh of contentment. The note had found its way home, just not in the way anyone had ever expected. And sometimes, that's enough. The experience changed something in Sarah. It made her realize how many stories are hidden all around us. In old books, in forgotten parks, in the whispers of the past. It sparked a new passion in her, to find these lost stories and give them a voice. Her quiet life as an accountant suddenly felt too small. She started spending all her free time in archives, flea markets, and old bookshops, always searching for another note, another letter, another whisper from the past, waiting to be heard. She created a blog, a small corner of the internet she called The Lost Correspondent, where she shared the stories she uncovered. She wrote about Leo and Alara, about their love in the locket. The story resonated with people. It was a reminder that love and connection can transcend time, even when tragedy strikes. Her blog grew, and soon she was receiving messages from people all over the world, sharing their own family stories, their own mysteries hidden in attics and old chests. Sarah had stumbled upon a forgotten note in a library book, a message that wasn't meant for her. But in finding it, and in seeing its story through to the end, she had found something else entirely. She had found a new purpose. She had become a bridge between the past and the present, ensuring that no story, no matter how small or how lost, would ever be truly forgotten. And it all started with a book she almost didn't open. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the past.